What's going on, everybody? So, earlier today on Sportcenter, there was a big conversation about what the Fred VanVleet injury means not only for the Houston Rockets, but also for teams like the Los Angeles Lakers. And I was sitting there thinking, this is exactly the type of situation the Lakers have to keep one eye on. Because when a team like Houston suddenly loses its floor general, its entire season outlook changes overnight. VanVleet, who's been one of the most consistent leaders and a steady two-way guard in this league, tore his ACL, and that's going to sideline him for the entire season. That kind of loss puts Houston in a very difficult position because, right now, they don't really have anyone who can replicate what he brings to the table. They'll lean heavily on young players like Reed Shepherd, and while he has potential, he's unproven. For a franchise that was aiming to make a playoff push, suddenly you're scrambling. Now, this is where the Lakers come into the equation. During the show, they mentioned names like Gabe Vincent, because when you think about it, Vincent can mirror some of the things VanVleet does. He's not the same caliber, but he is a hard-nosed defender, a guy who's played in an NBA Finals, someone who can hit threes and initiate an offense when needed. In many ways, he's a cost-effective, slightly downgraded version of VanVleet. And for a Houston team desperate to fill that void, someone like Vincent could be appealing, especially given that his contract situation makes him movable. The interesting thing, though, is Houston has assets the Lakers could use. Whether it's big man depth like Clint Capella or younger wings like Tari Eason, there are pieces that make sense in a potential deal. Obviously, you're not talking about landing a cornerstone like Jabari Smith Jr., that's off the table. But role players who can immediately strengthen the Lakers' rotation? That's realistic, especially as the season moves closer to the trade deadline. And here's the other wrinkle that Sportcenter hit on: Austin Reaves. Now, nobody's saying the Lakers are dying to trade him. They're not. But let's be real, the NBA is a business, and if Houston gets desperate, or if they start thinking long-term, Reaves is exactly the kind of player who would catch their attention. He's young, versatile, and unlike VanVleet, who's on the wrong side of 30 and now battling serious injury, Reaves offers both immediate production and future stability. Think about it. He can play on the ball, he can play off the ball, he can be aggressive as a decision-maker, and he has playoff experience under his belt. Houston might look at him and see the bridge to their future backcourt. A guy who fits their timeline and gives them a steady hand after losing VanVleet. For the Lakers, though, the calculus is different. They have to evaluate how Reaves fits alongside LeBron James and Anthony Davis this season. In the playoffs, we already saw him at times reduced to just a catch-and-shoot option, hoisting up threes at a volume far above what he took in the regular season. That's not his best role. He thrives with the ball in his hands, probing defenses, creating off the dribble. So, here's the dilemma. If the Lakers feel Reaves is being minimized next to LeBron and AD, then maybe you start looking at what his value could fetch. Could it bring back a long-term front-court piece like Jabari Smith Jr.? Could it be the move that sets up the next core around Anthony Davis once LeBron eventually calls it a career? That's where Houston could re-enter the picture later this season. For now, though, both sides are in wait-and-see mode. Houston has to figure out if their roster can survive without VanVleet. The Lakers have to test whether Reaves truly fits in this system or if his talents are being wasted. Only then will we know if these two franchises could come together on something that reshapes both of their futures. Now here's where the conversation really picked up on SportsCenter, and I thought it was fascinating because it wasn't just about whether Houston might come calling for Austin Reaves. It was about the bigger question: what exactly do the Lakers do with him? This is where you start to see two very different camps among fans and even analysts. On one side, you have those who believe Austin Reaves is untouchable, a crucial piece for this franchise going forward. They see him as someone who can step up in big moments, a player who is young enough to keep developing, but already has the composure to shine under the postseason lights. To them, he's the kind of piece you build around when you're thinking beyond LeBron James and Anthony Davis. On the other side, you have critics who downplay his impact, calling him overrated, suggesting the Lakers should move him while his value is high, maybe even dismissing him as someone who doesn't belong in the long-term picture. And honestly, What makes this debate so compelling is that both sides have a point. Reaves is a very good player, no doubt about it, and on the contract he's on right now, he's one of the best value deals in the league. You're getting starter-level production from a guy who doesn't cost you anywhere near star money. That's the dream scenario for front offices trying to manage the cap. But here's the catch, and Sportcenter really stressed this. When you're actually looking to make a trade, that same cheap contract becomes a problem. Because while it's great for the Lakers to have him at that number, it's nearly impossible to match salaries if you're trying to bring back a high-level piece in return. That means if the Lakers did want to pursue a bigger name, say someone like Trey Murphy or Jalen Suggs, players who would fit seamlessly alongside LeBron and AD, it wouldn't be just Reaves in the deal. You'd need to attach other rotation pieces like Rui Hachimura, or perhaps even a prospect like Dalton Knecht to make the salaries work. And once you start stacking multiple assets on top of Reaves, the question becomes, is that really worth it? This is where Houston enters the picture as such an intriguing partner. They have the type of players who are not only good fits, but also line up financially with Reaves' contract right now. That means the Lakers could, in theory, explore a trade without having to completely gut the supporting cast around LeBron and AD. And beyond the fit, you might even be able to squeeze out a draft asset in the deal if Houston starts to feel the heat. And make no mistake, that pressure could come. Fred VanVleet wasn't just a stat sheet guy for them, he was their veteran leader, their steady hand, the voice in the locker room with championship experience. Losing that presence isn't just about what happens on the floor, it's about the tone he set for the entire team. If Houston starts to slide in the standings, if Reed Shepherd isn't ready to shoulder that load, or if the rest of their guard rotation can't fill the void, suddenly you could see them turning to the trade market faster than expected. And this is exactly what makes the Lakers' situation with Reaves so tricky. Do you hold on to him, betting that he'll continue to grow and eventually be a cornerstone of your next era? Or do you use him now, while he's on that team-friendly deal, to bring back multiple pieces that might be a cleaner fit around LeBron and AD? The reality is, there isn't much time to figure it out. LeBron's window isn't infinite, and the Lakers can't afford another wasted year. That's why every detail matters. Every angle has to be weighed carefully. The conversation then shifted toward what the Lakers could realistically get back if they decided to make Austin Reaves available. The point being raised was simple. Houston has the type of roster construction that could make sense in a deal like this. They're one of the few teams with both young talent and flexible contracts that line up with what Los Angeles would need in return. From a Lakers standpoint, the logic is clear. Reaves isn't just a stopgap player, he's someone who can fit into multiple lineups, handle secondary playmaking duties, and space the floor. That's why the discussion revolved around whether Houston, if faced with pressure in the standings, would be more willing to part with valuable assets. The idea is that Reaves could be a long-term solution in their backcourt, either alongside their current veterans or eventually replacing them when it's time to transition into the next phase. For Los Angeles, the possibilities become interesting. If Houston's front office is willing to negotiate, could the Lakers pry away a promising young forward? Or perhaps add a combination of depth pieces that address multiple needs? A backup big man, a versatile wing who can defend and hit threes, maybe even an extra draft pick. That's the type of package that would justify moving someone as cost-efficient as Reaves. The bigger picture, though, is about timing and urgency. Houston might reach a point where they feel they need more playmaking stability, and Reaves checks that box immediately. At the same time, the Lakers need to balance short-term contention with long-term planning, and that's where these kinds of talks get complicated. Trading him only makes sense if the return directly improves their championship outlook. So, as it stands, Houston feels like one of the very few teams that could actually line up in a way that works for both sides. The question is whether either organization gets desperate enough to pull the trigger. Until then, it remains speculation, but speculation worth watching.